Mary Ann Webster entered the world in the crowded, vibrant heart of London in 1874. Her family was large, and her place within it was unremarkable, as the needs of many often overshadow the dreams of one. The city was a tapestry of soot and splendor, of desperate poverty and staggering wealth. Her own thread in that tapestry was a humble one, colored by the realities of the working class from her earliest memories. Life was a lesson in resourcefulness, in making do and mending, in stretching a meager meal to feed hungry mouths. She learned to observe the world with quiet eyes, to understand that hardship was a common language spoken in the tenements and markets around her. Yet within her a different kind of fire burned. It was not a fire of rebellion, but of compassion. She felt a deep pull toward the alleviation of suffering, a desire to be useful in moments of pain. This internal calling guided her toward the profession of nursing. In an era before modern medical miracles, nursing was an art of presence and practical care. It required a steady hand, a calm demeanor, and an iron constitution. She trained with a focus that impressed her mentors, learning the precise methods of dressing wounds, the careful administration of medicines, the subtle art of reading a patient's condition by the light of a kerosene lamp. Her work took her into homes and hospital wards, places thick with the smell of antiseptic and illness. She held the hands of the dying and cheered the recovering, witnessing the full raw spectrum of human fragility. This work did not harden her, instead it deepened her capacity for empathy. She saw that beneath every ailment was a person with a story, a life interrupted. Her competence and kindness became her defining features. She was Nurse Webster, a capable young woman building a respectable life on a foundation of service and strength. It was through this work she met Thomas Bevan. He was not a man of grand speeches or lofty ambitions, but a man of quiet constancy. A gardener by trade, he understood growth and patience. He knew that beautiful things required time and attentive care. Their courtship was a gentle unfolding, a mutual recognition of shared values. They both appreciated the satisfaction of honest labor, the comfort of a quiet evening, the promise of a family. They married in a simple ceremony, surrounded by family. Their vows, a contract of mutual support and shared hope for the future. Their early years together were a portrait of hard-won contentment. Thomas tended his gardens and Mary and continued her nursing. Their combined incomes creating a stable, if modest home. Their love quickly multiplied. They welcomed 2 daughters and then 2 sons. Their small apartment filled with the beautiful cacophony of childhood, with scraped knees and bedtime stories, with the warmth of a shared meal after a long day's work. Mary Ann would look at her children asleep in their beds and feel a profound sense of accomplishment. This was the life she had worked for, a life of love and purpose, surrounded by the people who mattered most. The first signs were easy to dismiss. A persistent headache she attributed to stress or tiredness, a strange thickening in her fingers she thought might be rheumatism from her nursing duties. The changes were glacial, but inexorable. She began to need new gloves, her old ones straining at the seams. Her wedding ring became a torment, a tight band of gold biting into her flesh. Her facial features, once fine and expressive, seemed to be broadening, her jaw becoming more squared, her nose appearing larger. In her reflection, confusion turned to concern, and concern to dread. A visit to a doctor led to tests, and eventually to a diagnosis that sounded like a foreign sentence: acromegaly. The word meant nothing to her at first, but its explanation meant everything. A benign tumor on her pituitary gland was flooding her body with growth hormone. Since she was an adult, and her long bones could not lengthen, the hormone instead enlarged the bones in her hands, feet, and face. It was a condition without a cure, a relentless progression that would reshape her very identity. The physical reality was a difficult adjustment. Chronic pain settled into her joints and bones. Her vision suffered from pressure on her optic nerves. The headaches were crushing. The fatigue was a leaden weight she carried every day. Yet these internal struggles were private battles. She could bear with a nurse's fortitude the external struggle. The reaction of the world was a public agony she was unprepared for. She saw it first in the eyes of her patients, a flicker of alarm where there had once been trust. A child would recoil from her touch, where before they had sought it. The kindly nurse Bevan was now a figure of unintended fright. Her own reflection became a stranger, a mask that concealed the woman she knew herself to be. She felt a profound dissociation, the essential Mary, and trapped inside a shell that was slowly hardening, distorting. Thomas, her beloved Thomas, was her anchor. He looked at her and still saw his wife. He held her thickened hands and told her she was beautiful. His love was a fortress against the world's creeping cruelty. For a time their family unit remained strong, insulated by his unwavering devotion. Their children adapted as children do. Their mother was simply their mother, her changing face a fact of life, not a subject of fear. They loved her voice, her laughter, her comforting presence. Then the foundation of her world shattered. Thomas Bevan was taken by a sudden illness that swept through him with terrifying speed. In a matter of days, the steadfast gardener, the loving father, the protective husband was gone. The loss was catastrophic. It was not merely an emotional devastation. It was an economic and social cataclysm. Mary Ann was now a widow in a society that offered few avenues for a woman alone, especially a woman whose appearance defied convention. Grief was a luxury she could not afford. The immediate and terrifying question was one of survival. How would she feed her children? How would she pay the rent? How would she keep them together? The small savings evaporated like morning fog. She returned to the hospitals and clinics, her nursing credentials in hand. She was experienced, capable, and desperately needed work. The rejections were a brutal education in human prejudice. Administrators would not meet her eyes. They spoke of patient sensibilities, of the importance of a soothing presence. They framed their discrimination as professional necessity. The doors of her former profession closed one by one with a finality that echoed in her soul. She sought any work: laundry service, seamstress work, cleaning. She knocked on doors until her knuckles were raw. The answer was always a shake of the head, a muttered apology, a door closing a fraction too quickly. Poverty became their unwelcome housemate. She sold their furniture piece by piece, then her own few pieces of jewelry, then Thomas's treasured tools. The children's clothes grew tight, and worn. Hunger was a constant silent guest at their table. The dread of the workhouse, the Victorian institution of last resort, where families were separated and dignity stripped away, became a palpable shadow stretching toward their door. She lay awake at night, her mind racing on a treadmill of fear, hearing the soft breathing of her children in the next room. Their innocence was a piercing contrast to the grim future she saw unfolding. It was in this state of desperate searching that she found the advertisement. The words seemed to burn on the newsprint: wanted the ugliest woman in the world, a substantial cash prize, and a long-term contract in America for the successful applicant. The advertisement was a mirror held up to her deepest shame. It reduced her profound medical suffering to a carnival contest. It asked her to commodify her very face, to sell her difference as entertainment. Her first reaction was a flush of hot humiliation. How could anyone contemplate such a thing? Then she looked around their barren room. She looked at her daughters mending their only dresses for the 10th time. She saw the careful hollow look in her son's eyes, the look of a child who has learned to ask for nothing. She thought of the workhouse, of losing them forever. In that moment of absolute clarity, Mary Ann Bevan made her covenant. She would exchange her dignity for their future. She would let the world laugh at her exterior, so that her children would never have to beg. She would become the object of ridicule, to become the architect of their success. With a resolve that felt both terrible and solid, she wrote the letter. She enclosed a photograph, and she sent her fate across the Atlantic Ocean. The reply came. She had won. The prize money was a temporary salvation, a pause in the freefall. But the contract was the true document. It promised passage to New York and steady employment with the Dreamland Circus on Coney Island. She explained to her older children as gently as she could that they were going to America for a new start, that mother had found a special job, that they must be brave. The journey across the ocean was a voyage between two lives. They left behind a world that had rejected them and sailed toward one that would exploit her image, but would also inexplicably offer them a chance. The Statue of Liberty stood in the harbor, a symbol of hope for millions. For Mary, and it was a complicated symbol, she was trading one kind of liberty for another. Coney Island in the 1920s was a sensory explosion of noise, light, and human spectacle. It was a kingdom of the bizarre where the normal rules were suspended. Here, a bearded lady was a queen, a man who could swallow swords was a hero, and a person with extraordinary physical characteristics was a marvel. It was here, in this garish, honest marketplace of the unusual, that Mary Ann went to work. Her stage persona was brutally simple. She was presented as the ugliest woman on earth. She would sit quietly on a velvet-draped platform, often wearing a fine dress to accentuate the contrast. The audience saw people filed past in an endless river. Their reactions were her daily cross. Some laughed with a cruel openness, others gasped and looked away. Some made jokes to their companions to break their own discomfort. Others stared with a blank, voyeuristic curiosity that denied her humanity. Completely a rare few would meet her eyes, and in that fleeting second she would see not horror, but a glimmer of pity or even respect. She developed a profound internal discipline to survive the hours on the platform. She retreated deep within herself. She constructed mental walls. She transformed the laughter into the sound of coins clinking into her children's future education. She translated the pointing fingers into pointing the way to a better life for her family. She focused on the tangible outcomes. Her salary provided a clean apartment, good food, proper schooling, medical care. Her body was on stage, but her mind was planning. Sewing, cooking, nurturing. She was performing the ultimate magic trick. She was making their derision disappear and reappear as security and hope. Away from the glaring lights and the cacophony of the Midway, Mary Ann Bevan was engaged in her true life's work. The apartment she rented for her family was a sanctuary of normalcy. Here there were no tickets, no queues, no staring eyes. Here she was simply mother. She enforced a strict division between her public and private life. She never spoke of the details of her workday to her children. She asked about their school lessons, their friends, their dreams. She helped them with their homework. Her capable hands that audiences gawked at, carefully mending a torn book or demonstrating a sums on paper. She saved every possible penny, not for herself, but for their futures. Her goal was explicit and unwavering. Her children would have professions. They would be teachers or clerks or businessmen. They would have a respectability and security she could never reclaim. Her sacrifice was not lost on them. As they grew older, they understood the immense cost of their comfortable lives. They saw their mother's quiet dignity at home, the weariness she could not always hide, the way she shielded them from the crudest aspects of her employment. Their love for her was tinged with a protective awe. They excelled in their studies. Partly to honor her, they built their own lives upon the foundation of her absolute sacrifice. Within the carnival world, she found an unexpected community. The other performers, the strongman, the tattooed lady, the contortionists, were also people who lived outside society's narrow definitions of normal. They understood the loneliness of being a spectacle. They offered a rough companionship, a fellowship of the marginalized. They did not see her as ugly. They saw her as Mary, and a hard-working mother doing a difficult job to take care of her own. In this world turned upside down, she found a sliver of acceptance. Mary Ann Bevan worked for over a decade, her name becoming synonymous with the sideshow genre. She grew older, her health slowly declining under the burden of her condition. She retired from active performance, but her image continued to circulate, a testament to a past era of entertainment. She passed away in 1933. Her obituaries in the press noted her as a famous circus attraction, but her true legacy was living and breathing in the form of her 4 children, all of them educated and self-sufficient, building families of their own. They were her masterpiece, created not from canvas and paint but from courage and sacrifice. The story of Mary Ann Bevan is a stark American parable. It speaks to the core national myths of self-reliance and reinvention. She arrived with nothing but a devastating problem, and through sheer force of will she transformed that problem into a solution. She used the only capital she had, her own transformed body, to build a future in the new world. But her deeper story transcends geography. It is a universal story about the definitions of beauty and bravery. The world insisted on seeing only her exterior and labeled it ugly, yet every day she performed an act of breathtaking interior beauty. She placed the welfare of her children above every personal comfort, every societal norm, every instinct of self-preservation. Her bravery was not the absence of fear, it was the daily decision to walk onto a platform and be stared at. Her strength was not in ignoring the taunts, it was in alchemizing them into tuition fees and warm coats. Her victory was not in becoming famous, but in making her children anonymous in the best possible way. Ordinary, successful, loved. For an audience in the United States, a nation built on the idea of forging one's own destiny, her journey is a raw and powerful example. She had no support system, no government aid, no sympathetic community. She had only her own profound love and an indomitable will. She looked into the abyss of poverty and disgrace, and she found a way not just to climb out herself, but to carry her children to solid ground on her own shoulders. The brave journey of Mary Ann Bevan teaches us that the most important survivals are often invisible: the survival of hope, the survival of dignity within sacrifice, the survival of a mother's love against impossible odds. Her face in those old photographs tells one story, a story of a rare disease, but her life's work tells another, far more powerful story. It is the story of a love so brave and so deep that it willingly wore a mask of ugliness so that the faces of her children could shine with the light of a future she gave them.